Hello everybody, and we're back here to talk about the law some more. And today I thought maybe it'd be appropriate to discuss a little bit about the Miranda warning, because it's something we all hear and know about to some degree and maybe don't fully understand. And of course we've all heard it. Anybody that's watched any police show, you see the cuffs go on and you hear you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to have an attorney. You have the right to have the court appoint you an attorney if you cannot afford an attorney. And those are the Miranda warnings. Now, Miranda evolved about 60 years ago, and it evolved out of the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. So Miranda took almost 150 years to become something that we had to recognize, or that was recognized as a right. And it evolves from an interpretation of the Fifth Amendment. And the Fifth Amendment is the self-incrimination amendment, is kind of what we just call it in one big lump. But there's a lot of different things that are stated in the Fifth Amendment. It's worth reading. And a lot of the things that are stated in the Fifth Amendment don't even apply anymore, because the world has changed since our forefathers wrote that amazing document. But it's really important for you to understand this. Now, clients all the time will say, well, I got stopped by the police officer. I pulled off. I was on the side of the road. I rolled down my window, and he came up to me and he started asking me questions. And, well, he didn't read me Miranda, and he asked me questions, and I answered those questions. And the next thing you know, I was arrested, or I was taken out of the car, and I was handcuffed, and he didn't ask me any more questions. And then he read me my Miranda rights after he took me out of the car and handcuffed me. Well, that's the key, and that's the distinction, because Miranda only applies and is only an obligation for the police to read you your Miranda rights after they've essentially taken you into custody and are clearly questioning you while you are in custody about an allegation or about issues involving a criminal act. So the key is custody. So police officers have the absolute right, without giving you Miranda, to come up and ask you a question. Hey, what's your name? Hey, how's your day? Hey, where are you going? Hey, what are you up to? And that officer's just asking you questions, and you're not in custody. But if that officer takes you into custody and says, stop right there, don't go any place, and let's say other officers show up and are standing around you, if you feel like at a point in time that your freedom has been diminished by the government, by that police officer, and it doesn't have to be handcuffs, but it can be a situation and a circumstance that would cause a reasonable person to think, I am in custody, I am not allowed to leave, therefore the government has seized me, then a question of whether Miranda should have been given to you during that period of questioning, should have been read to you. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is this. Just because a police officer starts talking to you and asking you questions doesn't mean Miranda should have applied. Doesn't mean that if you talk to him about things that incriminate yourself, that Miranda will keep that out. What it means is when you are taken into custody, or you reasonably feel like or believe that your freedom to leave and go has been taken from you, then that is a seizure of your person by the government, and you should be Mirandized. Now, you're not obligated to have that chat with the police over and above the very general conversation you may have with identify yourself, identify where you live, and you may even identify where you're going, but you don't have an absolute obligation to carry on that chat with the police. And you do have the right to ask an officer, well, officer, why are you questioning me? What is this about? And could you please tell me why I have been stopped? And those questions to a police officer in that tone and in that manner are usually, if not always, going to get you an explanation. So, my recommendation is this. As always, my recommendation is I'm not giving you legal advice. If you got questions you want to ask, you call your lawyer and ask your lawyer. What I'm kind of giving you is an explanation of and an idea of how the Fifth Amendment in the form of Miranda versus Arizona, the United States Supreme Court decision nearly 60 years ago that said that Ernesto Miranda was taken into custody in Arizona. And Ernesto couldn't afford a lawyer. And the police in Arizona at that time had Ernesto in a little room and they interrogated him for hours. And they didn't say, well, by the way, Ernesto, you're a citizen who has the right to know what his constitutional rights are. And under the Fifth Amendment, you have this right. And that is the right, as the United States Supreme Court decided in Miranda versus Arizona. You have the right to have an attorney. You have a right to remain silent. You have a right to know that anything you say while you're in custody can be used against you in a court of law. And if you are indigent, you have a right to have an attorney appointed to give you legal advice. Now, in the context of criminal law, there are certain very, very important rights. The Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, not incriminate yourself, and have an attorney present with you and have an attorney appointed to represent you if you can't afford an attorney is an essential, amazing piece of the Constitution that took over 100 plus years to evolve out of the Fifth Amendment. That, the presumption of innocence, which we've talked about, the burden of proof, all of these things go into the framework of what makes the Constitution, makes this process that we have in the United States of America as it relates to people who are accused, the best, most powerful piece of government law for the jury process, for the process of making sure citizens who are just accused have rights to maintain their innocence, have rights to make the government prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, who have the right to bail, who have the right to have lawyers appointed to them if they can't afford them, and who have the right to have the government agents say to them, when you are taken into custody, what you say to us can and will be used against you. If you want a lawyer, you have the right to have a lawyer. And if you can't afford a lawyer, we will appoint you a lawyer. Those are things that are important for you to understand. Read the Constitution. Read the Constitution. Read the Bill of Rights. Know what those things say. And always remember, when you're dealing with the government, when you're dealing with the police, when you're dealing with people in the judicial setting, it is always important to be kind, to make sure you listen closely to what is happening, and to understand that there are those rules that need to be followed and will be followed that will help protect your rights. So, I'm Larry the Law Guy, Larry Wilder. I'm an attorney in Jeffersonville, Indiana. This is another opportunity to talk to you about what I want to explain the law is. Once again, I'm not your lawyer. If you need a lawyer, go hire one, go talk to him. I'm just talking about the law. Thanks. See you again. Hope everything's well. Stay safe.